again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Good evening, welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Geordies here, Geordies there, joined by George, Steve, Kevin, Mitch, Steve, Alwaleed and Stu. And 1 hour of NUFC crack in the build-up to our Carabao Cup final at Wembley at the weekend. But we're going to first ask the lads just a reflection, I guess, on the Liverpool game. George, we've had your opinion on this, so I'm going to miss you out on this and go straight to Steve Wilkinson. Don't forget, you can ask George halfway through the show. If you've got a question for George, we'll do a little segment where we'll ask George. You'll get your questions in for him. Then, Steve, your take on the game at the weekend, mate.
Well, it was. The first 20 minutes was a nightmare. You know that first of all, 2 sucker punch goals that they just did things that nobody else has managed to do. You know that they just got through the defence, and then obviously the Nick Pope thing. But after that, I thought we played the best we played for quite a while, with 10 men, and obviously ASM was very impressive, doing a lot of what Supermax says he shouldn't do, but it was more effective. He was going across the field a lot, but I think there was one time he went the whole width, but he was getting 1 or 2 shots in. Gives Eddie a headache for the weekend, I think, as to whether he plays him or not, because I think as you were talking with Ross on yesterday's show that if Willock's available, do you go back to the tried and tested that was working so well? So. But I think in the end, we're probably unlucky not to get anything from it. And I certainly, shared the view that everybody else at the end. I think when they were coming out, you weren't leaving the ground depressed. I think I think there was a lot of people were encouraged by the way the lads had got stuck in, and just once again the worry of not scoring. I think if we'd lost 2-1. You would have said, well, at least we've got on the score sheet again. But that's going to be the worry for the weekend. Can we get a goal or 2 or 3, please, so I can relax? Yes, I think, overall, there was an improvement, I think, in the way that we played, although it's not the way I want to. I don't want to play 10 man every game going forward.
Yeah, Kev, it's weird, isn't it? You play with 10 men, it goes 1 or 2 ways. You get a thumping of all thumping, so you manage to consolidate and surprisingly play better than you managed to play with the 11 on the pitch.
Yeah, and it's I'll keep it short because I had my bit Monday and I'll pass it off to Mitch. But it's the old analogy is it's harder to play against 10 men. Yeah, and I thought we'd done that very, very well. But again, it's just putting the ball on the back of the net when you get those opportune moments in certain parts of the game when you needed to get a goal, like immediately after when they score the 2 or the sending off, can we get back into the game somehow? But I thought we'd done very well. Not to concede, it could have been a cricket score, but thankfully we kept it to 2-0.
Yeah, we did. Mitch, just quickly, we don't want to dwell too much on the defeat, but it was disappointing, really. And it's I guess Eddie Howe will have learned a lot more from that than maybe the draws that he had before that.
Disappointing, yes, but there was things we could learn from that, and there's positives we can take away. They were terrified of us for 20 minutes, 10 men. The fragility that was exposed in spades by Real Madrid last night was there on Saturday. If we'd kept 11 men on the pitch, I think we'd at least got a draw. All it would have taken was 1 goal, and they would have folded. They hit with 2 sucker punch goals, and then the sending off was, frustrating, I think, is probably the understatement of the year. But they had a fragility there that ASM exposed, and Real Madrid then blew a hole in it. And I think if we'd had 11 men on the pitch, I think if we played the same way, I think we'd have got a draw out of that game. And so I think going forward, we've got a lot of things we can take as positives. We've taken out a lot of things that give us reasons to fight at the weekend, and we'll probably touch on this later on. We've taken things out that give us reasons to go to Wembley and lay a marker down. And so out of these things, it may have been a victory for Liverpool, but it may be a Pyrrhic victory in terms of the effect on us. we may find that positive things come out of it, not negative.
Steve, your thoughts?
Terrible to be disappointed of first defeat in 18 games, isn't it?
And it just,
But you know what? It in a way, it was kind of refreshing. It was kind of a blessing in disguise. That's the way I'm looking at it, because it kind of shook the squad up a little bit, shook the team up, went down to 10 men, and then played probably what's been our best football since Christmas, which is great when you're going into a cup final. What we saw in the second half, and certainly after the sending off, something that we've spoken about among each other, about the movement across the front line, and about ASM using and tracking across just rather than just picking the ball up and losing it. He went looking for his own space, which was good. He didn't just rely on trying to go down the one track. He was constantly looking for the gaps. And I thought that all in all, we were the better team. I thought that everything that the lads have said is absolutely spot on. And I'm going in quite refreshed now up to Wembley on Sunday. And I'm in a way, it's kind of like it's a bit like getting the monkey off your back. We've had all of these platitudes about being unbeaten in the stretch, but now's time to start another one. And I think that's the way that Eddie Howe will be looking at it, and hopefully that's the way the squad will be looking at it, especially after they played so well.
Al-Walid, disappointing result, but are you taking as much positivity as say Steve Hasty has?
Actually, Mr. Steve Hasty speak exactly what I want to say. So regarding we hear about since the start of the season, Newcastle unbeaten, the high stats on the defense line, Kieran Trippier, the points, even in the fantasy of Premier League. All the whole world putting 3 players defender in Newcastle line. This is, I think, all pressure on the team, on the Eddie Howe, on the players, especially when we played long time, almost the same squad starting lineup. So now I can consider this pressure release, this defeat. Actually, when you asked me last week, I said a draw, but in my side, I felt there will be kind of disaster, but I want to keep it. I try to keep it positive, but I know this will coming because this is pressure. The teams didn't used to this kind of a pressure. The pressure we have, all the pressure we have is how to face not be relegated. So this is new for us. So I think this is the pressure release, and with all this negativity, we, as you said, lads, we play good in the last second half with 10 players, and now we still have a final to win. So I can see positive, and I'm sure after the final we'll get back on track and focus on Champions League spot.
How excited are the fans in Saudi? Barry Hogan's asking.
Very excited, and now we are increasing in numbers. We have the sponsorship of Newcastle, Vov Gaming Company. They are hosting us every game. It's the priority for Newcastle because they are sponsor of Newcastle United Club. We have event last week. We have event with Shola Amubi. Thanks for for the club and for Vov, and hopefully a lot of legend will come to Saudi Arabia and interact with the Saudi fans.
How did that event go?
It was amazing, really, and maybe the sad thing was Christian Atsu, rest in peace, was the same day, the announcement, but the fans came, and we have good talk with Shola Miobi. He was modest, and we really enjoy our time. We speak about the plans for the fans in the future. It's really excited times, and I'm happy that every time, every game, we have a lot of fans gathering with us. And
Donald says you're looking very regal today.
Well, can I say what's regal mean?
Like a king.
Okay, thanks. This is for Foundation Day, today, 22 February, and thanks, Donald.
Happy Foundation Day. Hope you're having a good time, Al-Walid. Probably not as good as you do when you're in England, it has to be said. Stu, from your perspective, again, we've spoken about it, but what's just your afterthoughts of the Liverpool game so we can put it to rest?
There's two things I want to say before that. Is first of all, I want to say publicly a big congratulations on getting 50,000 subscribers. I think that out quality content 7 days a week is unrivaled, and it takes some commitment, and it's fully deserved. So well done, mate.
Thank you, Stu. Thanks to everybody who contributes, all of you guys, everybody who's contributed in the past, but who has moved on to pastures new. Thanks to everybody who comes on the show on a regular basis. Thanks to everybody in the chat and everybody who shares. And special mention to some of the people like Paul Gallant, who comes on every night now and shares it. Like, literally does share it here, there, and everywhere. And people like Julie and Rachel and people who've been, with us for many, many years. To some of the people we've lost, like Chris and Dave, who was one of our moderators, people who, have gone on to do so much great work away from the show. Dave, a big supporter of the food bank. Chris, of course, who we used to do his roving reports running through the streets of London. God bless him. We've had some great people on here. Holly, who was a breath of fresh air to the channel when there was a lot of negativity surrounding, the platform. But yeah, it's been great. And I know I do listen as well. The true crime stuff, not everyone's bag. I still put that up on this channel, but it's a little bit more considered now as to what we'll put up. But here's to the next 50,000. So thank you, Stu.
Can I just say before you go on to Stu? I think it's one of the personal thanks for being involved in this, and I'm sure the other lads share the same. But I think it's amazing how many people come up to you and from all over the place. And it's like, for example, there was a guy called Richard who came up to me at half time, and he says he watches the show all the time and recognized me and says the content's great and just shows you. And then he's coming up every week, and NUFC Matters is the shows that he follows down there in Wales for up to date. So I think it's certainly got a global audience as well as what the locals are.
It's mad. I mean, Saturday at the pub, someone comes up to me, goes, I'm from Australia. It's my first match since the takeover. I just wanted to thank you for the shows. He said, I knew you'd be here, and I came just specifically to see you and say thank you. So it's humbling every time that happens. I'm sure you guys all feel the same. I know when Mitch came over and Stu was here, that Christmas period, it was bonkers for you as well, in the strawberry and stuff like that. So look, we never take it for granted. We see it all the time, but we don't, and it's great. And we're just glad to be part of a thriving community, because YouTube, covering Newcastle at the moment is very positive. We were here during the negative times, and we'll continue to be here through thick and thin as long as we can. So yeah, thanks for that, Stu. I haven't really said anything about it this week, so thank you.
No, fully deserved, especially the Wednesday and the Sunday shows.
Definitely those two shows in particular. Yeah, forget Fridays. That old thing.
Ignore that. Also, happy Foundation Day to Al Walid and all the Saudi viewers. I just got a message of someone there saying, why is Al Walid dressed as a Star Wars character? So I had to explain this. Anyway.
Steve's haircut's creating a massive buzz in the chat. Like, we'll come to
that. It'll take half an hour Friday show, though, won't it? No, you don't need the looking like it to go on so long.
Right, so regarding Liverpool, it's out the system now. Let's get over it, isn't it? We've got beat, and that's it. It's our second defeat in the league this season. No one's done better than that. We've only been beat off one team. No one's done better than that. We've only lost once at home. No one's done better than that. We're going to Wembley. Only one team's done that with us. So there's so much to be positive about. Like you say, the ringmaster's back on Sunday, and that will lift everyone. And that's it. Liverpool's gone. We didn't manage it well. They did. They looked at where they thought they could expose us, and they were clinical in the first 50 minutes. Something they hadn't been for most of the season, to be honest. So credit to Liverpool where it was, and I'm sure if it remained 11 versus 11, maybe the score wouldn't have stayed 2-0, but it's gone. And as I said on Sunday, I'd rather the bad performance get out the way than this coming Sunday. And credit to the players for rallying round and not giving up, and it shows the true test of character. And if they can put it in on the pitch, we can put it in on the stands and from further afield. And it was a performance at the end where you thought, no, this could be embarrassing. Once Nick Pope got sent off, I think we were all proud. You know, they did us proud. They did themselves proud, and that's it. We move on to the next game. I don't know who we're playing next, but there's the next game around the corner.
Man City.
Yeah, Man City. Yeah. We'll come to that in due course.
No, I was actually referring to the cup final, but without mentioning it, that's all.
Yeah. We'll forget about Man City for now. Park that. Yeah. Tom Dixon says, "What's your thoughts on Ryan Fraser, Stu? Moved to train with the under-21s ahead of Wembley final and unlikely to return to the first team setup. Club see his future elsewhere." I mean, worst kept secret at Newcastle, that really, that Fraser was, not wanted, but big thing to announce it, especially just before the cup final. Bit of tit for tat going on here with maybe a thing we didn't really know that had gone on between Howe and Fraser. Is that underlying, do you think?
I think it's been simmering for a while. Even he's alluded it in his press conferences now. He wants him back in the squad, etc. To me, it was a challenge. It was a Gordon that laid down saying, "Show us you've got the right attitude." And to me, Fraser appears to be, from the outside looking in, it's not the first time or the first club he's done it, and he's spat his dummy out. It looks like he believes he's better than what he is, and if you don't buy into the ethos of the squad and put yourself before the others, then there's only one winner, and that's Mr. Edward Frank Howe, isn't it? So that's the way it should be. And if he doesn't want to toe the party line, then don't have him there festering away, and one bad apple spoils the cart, as they say. So if that's what he's doing, get him out. We'll get a fee for him of some sorts, and I'm sure we'll be able to get his, because he's on a decent salary because he's signed on a free. There's another one that can get out the way and put it towards a cause to build a much better future. So with someone like that, Fraser, to me, I think the story was released before he did, or his aides did, shall we say. And it's another thing because he's not one of our big hitters. He's always been a fringe player or injured, but he is capable of playing well. But again, you have to start putting the team first and doing what's asked of you, and not throwing your toys out the pram if you don't get your own way.
Talking of fringes, Alan Little says, "A sensible haircut, Steve Hasty, but please let it grow back to the hair that resembles an Afghan hound or a golden retriever." Al-Walid, Ryan Fraser, I mean, not really not really a star at Newcastle, it has to be said. And, one of those players we expected to leave, but, news that he's gone into the 21s. For me, it was slightly surprising because Eddie Howe only a few weeks ago was saying he can't wait to get him back in the team. But, it's up to him. Al-Walid's disappeared. So, Steve, same question to you. What's your views on the whole Fraser situation?
Saves on the price of a Wembley suit, doesn't it? So that's about it. Would only be a junior size anyway, but if anybody out there's got a 28-inch leg, 30-inch waist, then there might be a suit going for them. But seriously, I mean, that's as Stewie said, there's been a history of falling out. I remember during lockdown when football restarted and he refused to play for Bournemouth. He obviously feels empowered to do things like that, and if there's been a falling out, then he's paying the price. Apart from that, I don't know what's been going on behind the scenes, so it's pointless speculating other than to say if he's leaving, good luck wherever you end up, son.
Yeah, wasn't really a surprise, Mitch, was it? Oh, you're on mute, mate. You're on mute.
Yeah, not really. Ties in with the conversation I had at the tail end of last week. As you all know, I've been flexing as many of the contacts as I've got in football to try and get tickets for people. I spoke to somebody who's a Geordie, who's a coach at a championship club, and he understood that a deal had been done to take Ryan Fraser to his club, and Ryan Fraser turned it down. And I suspect that's the statement that has been made by the club now is, well, we're trying to find you somewhere to play. You didn't want to take it, so go to the under-21s today.
Al-Walid, you know the question just about Ryan Fraser leaving. Saying leaving Newcastle is a bit presumptuous, but he will be at some point. We're going into the under-21s.
Well, about his leaving, always, the whole season, they always talk about that he will leave, because he's not playing. but I'm not really sure about the story if it's solid. But it's expected, because if we compare all the stories happened last month, we always see that he got an offer, he will leave eventually. He got an offer, but Eddie Howe said nobody will leave more. Nobody will leave. Eddie Howe let Shelby leave, but I'm not really sure. Maybe wasn't good financially, maybe for the club, so they didn't let Fraser leave. Almiron got better in this position on the right wing, so I believe this is one of the reason he asked to leave. But I think that from that, if there is a problem, I think this is it, and maybe he did, because he didn't play. Maybe it's like some usually who play in 21, always this punishment for coming late or something maybe happen. But nobody. I like Fraser, but the right now situation, he can be a substitution as now, but for the future, I don't think Fraser. And he's an age, he need to play. So I don't think Newcastle is at the moment. He will not be in a position to play in starting lineup.
Yeah, Kev, moving him into the 21s is, that's the final, the final act, isn't it, before he leaves?
Exactly. I agree with what everybody's said so far, and it's surplus to requirements. That he's done what he's had to do within the club. We're thankful for him, just like Shelby and others that have moved on. And thanks for your service. We appreciate you. It might help the 21s get a couple of victories in the back end of the season, unless their season's over already. But no, I think it's if what Mitch is true, what he said, which I believe it would be true, is that why wouldn't you turn and move down away from a club where you're not getting any game time, where you can actually go play football? That's what your job is. But that's just the measure of the man, I guess. So yeah, good luck to him. Wasn't going to be a big fan, but again, there's no sentiment in football. You can't just love somebody for loving somebody just to keep him around just because he's been there for 5-6 years or whatever it is. So I think we should just move on, take his salary and put it into somebody different, put it into where it's needed in maybe a future development player or somebody like that. Yeah, so not really too worried about it, to be honest.
Steve, no room for sentiment in football.
Yeah, it was hard to believe that all 25 in the squad were going to be happy, and I think he's really realised that he's well down the pecking order in getting into the first team. And if there was any unrest starting, I think this is a good way to, by announcing it, to pinch it in the bud. Because if I think rumours had started, particularly this week, that could have unsettled, and it would have been. Wouldn't have got some good PR out of that. I'm sure the media would have milked that if they'd found out that way. So I think for the club to announce it is good. It's put the thing to bed. I don't know who the club was that he wanted to go. Mitch obviously got that idea, but I'm guessing it wasn't one of the ones at the top that might be coming up, the Burnley or the Sheffield or the Middlesbrough or something like that. So if it was just a run-of-the-mill mid-table club that he was only going to get a game and there wasn't any ambition there, then maybe you can understand and wait until the end of the season. So it's probably best to get him out of the squad if he's you're going to likely to cause any unrest. So, but as the other lads have said, he's done a job for us at the time when he came, and you thank him for that and you wish him luck in the future. He's played some decent performances, and it's a shame he didn't get back to the form that he had originally when he was at Bournemouth. Where he was on fire and him and Wilson connected quite well. That hasn't really happened here. So, wish him well for the future and move on.
Yeah, he's had a face like a smack backside, George, every time I've seen him, to be honest.
Yeah. History repeating itself, Steve. People forget that just before he fell out with Bournemouth, he turned down a £20 million move to Arsenal. I mean, this is the measure of the guy. Hanging out for more, I suspect, for himself. And then the next thing you know, he's after COVID, during COVID, he's refusing to play at all at Bournemouth and hacking off their fans. He comes to us, and I was puzzled why Howe would entertain him again after Bournemouth. He got some decent performances out of him, but there again, he goes to get picked for Scotland, And while he's running through brick walls for Scotland and tearing up trees for Scotland, comes back to Tyneside and he's injured, or he cannot play, or he's not in the game. No, there's something wrong with the lad. His attitude is just second rate, and he's shown it again for me. But yeah, good luck to him. And I've got to say, I don't entirely agree with this no sentiment in football, because the Newcastle owners in these recent transfers have had, Chris Wood went and Shelby went, but they were at no disadvantage financially. In fact, they both did very well financially out of it. And I think that's because the Newcastle owners and the people that negotiate for Newcastle were careful about that. So I think if you play fair with them, they'll do their best for you. And as Neil said, if he had an opportunity to go and play football and turned it down, well, that's the end of his story, isn't it? And I've got to say, we won't miss him. We won't miss him.
No, definitely not. The TV times have been announced for April. Manchester United at home is now a 4:30 kickoff on the 2nd of April, and that is on Sky. Wednesday, the 5th of April, Newcastle's game away to West Ham is an 8 o'clock kickoff on Sky. 8th against Brentford is no change, not on TV, so it's a 3 o'clock Saturday kickoff. Saturday, the 15th of April, Aston Villa away is now a 12:30 kickoff. That is live on BT. Sunday, the 23rd of April, Spurs at home is now a 2 o'clock kickoff, and that is live on Sky. If Spurs were to qualify for the FA Cup semi-finals, then of course their St James's Park visit would need to be rescheduled. And Thursday, the 27th of April, Everton away is now a 7:45 kickoff, and that will be on BT. And the Southampton game on the 30th is 2 o'clock kickoff, no TV for that one. Don't forget as well that the Manchester United could change depending on their Europa League status. Of course, we won't know that until Thursday night's game is played. Rail strikes as well, which are quite important with regards to fixtures these days. We have managed to avoid a direct clash again. Although the proximity to a strike day, of course, can cause disruption. Yeah. So that is particularly good news, it has to be said, as far as Newcastle's away support is concerned with regards to travel. But early kickoff times still the bane of our lives when we've got to travel, unfortunately. Also, alongside the April announcement, all matches on Sunday, May the 28th, which includes our visit to Stamford Bridge for the Chelsea away game, will now kick off at 4:30 p.m. The alteration is, of course, to avoid a clash with the League One playoff final, which is at Wembley on the same day. And for those of you travelling down to Wembley as well, and I will probably reiterate this later on during the week, but the trains going down to London from 7 p.m. onwards this coming Sunday, King's Cross to Newcastle, will be alcohol free. Drink won't be on sale, and it will be an offence to carry drink on. So just be aware of that when you're travelling down. Okay, halfway through the show, it's time for the ads.
A big thanks to all our sponsors, starting with Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can order them from mrvickies.co.uk, email them at info@mrvickies.co.uk, or call them on 01768 210 102. Why not try some new beers at Blowhole Brewery? You can find them at blowholebrewery.co.uk. Thanks also to United Group Travel, UK Coach Holidays based in Morpeth. Telephone 01670 362 460 or mobile 07957 141 654. Graham, your driver, Beverly answering your calls and looking after you on your tour. Thanks also to 3 Properties. They specialise in sourcing investment properties for their clients who are looking to invest in the North East. They offer a full in-house service from sourcing the deals to managing the properties for you.
They've done over 100 plus deals in the last 12 months for clients all over the UK. Give the guys a follow on Instagram, matty.patter_northeast property and phil.reed_northeast property, or email phil@3property.co.uk if you're interested in getting a good property deal. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. Thanks to Media Arts for all the videos. If you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button underneath this video today. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to your social media. If you're out and about, you can catch us as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. If you want to join the channel, click join and you'll find out our membership packages down there. Very easy to do. Or if you want to become a cult member, £25 a month, go to nufcmatters.com and look for membership pack, or put your smartphone over the QR code and it will take you straight there. Anyone who subscribes to the channel will get a free car sticker. To get your car sticker, simply email john@nufcmatters.com. Got a few events coming up over the next few weeks. Steve Howie, Friday the 24th of February at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets available for £29 on voucher. And even with Nobby Solano, Saturday the 25th of March, tickets £15. Book at nufcmatters.com. Nobby Solano is also at Felling Cricket Club on Good Friday the 7th of April at 4 o'clock. Tickets are £10 and available behind the bar. And an evening with Frank Clark and John Gibson, Thursday the 20th of April, that's at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £15. Book now at nufcmatters.com. We've also got a vast array of t-shirts available at the website. If you want your special Wembley t-shirt, you can go to nufcmatters.com and get one now while stocks last.
Big shout out as well for a couple of podcasts coming up over the next couple of weeks. True Crime Podcast. I interviewed former undercover police officer Suzanne Sharkey. She used to work the Newcastle beaten biker and walker. So, yeah, that was very interesting. She does a lot of important work these days now that she's retired. So, well worth tuning in for that one. And this one is a real feel-good factor. Alan Todd, you might have seen this one in the news. He was the man who owned Bob the Pigeon. This is the pigeon that ended up leaving Gateshead and ended up in Alabama. Was obviously on its way to see Kevin in Atlanta. But he's now managed to change. He's now managed to. Well, this story, honestly, just watch the podcast. It's brilliant. It's now become a book. I'm sure this will end up being a film. It's a great story. I'll stick that up on the weekend for you to watch. But great story, and gives you the full ins and outs of pigeon fancying, which is something I never thought I'd say on this platform. Okay, as always, it's time for Ask George. Okay, George, Barry Hogan was first in. He said, if financial fair play didn't exist, who would your marquee signing be, George?
Oh, goodness gracious. I think you'd have to go for Neymar. I mean, on his days, he's almost unstoppable. And can you imagine him alongside Bruno and others? I mean, it just would be incredible. Yeah, Neymar, I think.
Okay. Terry Armstrong says, can you ask George, can George remember a time we've started 3 different keepers in 3 consecutive matches? Pope versus Liverpool, Karius versus Manchester United, and probably Dubravka versus City.
Pope.
Yeah, I think I can. We had a bad run in the 50s when Ronnie Simpson got injured. He was replaced by Stuart Mitchell in the next game, and he got injured, and they had to bring Brian Harvey in, the lad that was in the juniors with me, went into the first team. So, yes, I can remember that happening before. Yeah.
All right. There was actually a good story on NUFC.com today about the 1924 Wembley Cup final, which none of us were at, even George. And it just said, I'll read it from NUFC.com. It says, fielding just 2 senior players at Aston Villa in their final league game ahead of the FA Cup, for which they were fined, the Magpies lost the services of first-choice custodian Sandy Much when he limped off with a knee injury during a 6-1 loss. That put him out of the final just 5 days later and prompted a recall for understudy Bill Bradley, whose most recent senior team action had come 3 months earlier. Much's misadventure came in a collision with an opponent, Bradley simultaneously keeping goal for the reserves as they lost to South Shields reserves in the final of the Newcastle Infirmary Cup. How apt. That was actually his 3rd reserve game in just 4 days, all at Gallagher, following a North Eastern League fixture on the Friday and a Northumberland Senior Cup final victory over Blythe Spartans on the Saturday. Joining up with the first team squad at their Harrow base, Bradley's place in the side wasn't confirmed until the day of the final, when Much finally bowed to the inevitable and pulled out. Bradley jury lined up against Villa at Wembley in those pre-substitute days, and although reportedly very shaky, under fire to begin with, later turned out to be the hero of the game as Newcastle won 2-0. So thanks to NUFC.com for that. Let's hope.
Well,
let's hope that's an omen, eh?
Bit of added history about the Much goalkeeper. You probably heard me talk about Alec Much, the physiotherapist who was the boss in the treatment room when I was injured. And Alec was that Much's grandson.
Fantastic. There you go. Another history lesson from George. Ask George what he prefers, standing on the terraces or all-seater stadia.
Oh, if I had the knees, I've always preferred standing in the terraces. I've got to say it was always a great thrill in the Gallagher corner to be with the crowd. But Tempest Fugit, I'm afraid, and now sitting down and watching it is great relief for me. If my knees would stand it, I would stand up in the terraces.
Okay, Alan Little says, a question for George. Did you ever work at Wallsend Slipway, George? My dad reckons you did.
My father worked at Wallsend Slipway. I never actually worked in the Slipway. I did various bits of my training in various shipyards, but never in Wallsend Slipway. But my father worked in Wallsend Slipway, and his apprentice when he was in Wallsend Slipway was a lad called Joe Thulis, who was better known for his cricket, but actually played centre forward for Newcastle for quite a long time, and just missed getting in the first team. But he missed getting in the first team because he decided to go with his cricket. He was a professional cricketer for years and years and years. And his daughter's on Time T's television, Dawn Thulis, is Joe Thulis' daughter.
All these connections. Michael West says, evening everyone, question for George, a.k.a. the Duke of Northumberland. Any superstitions, he says, rituals before the final? Thanks.
Rituals before the final. Well, if any of you have been watching me Twitter feed today, you'll see I've already remade me bed to me Wembley bed and got me third team shirt as me pajamas for the next few days. So yes, that's one ritual. The other ritual was I shall have this by me side and give it a really good helping when it will score a goal. So there's the other ritual. I mean that went to all 3 finals in the 50s with my dad. So it's a long-standing ritual. That
Can you not send that down to London and make sure that Neil's got it?
Mate, I would end up battering some man with it, man.
That answers Tim's question about where George is. He's watching it at home. Buck Tizer says, George, if you were playing today, would you wear these bright-coloured boots, or would you stick with the proper boots like Puma Kings or Copper Mondales?
No, I'd end up with a pair of boots that were comfortable, is the honest answer. I mean, the torture out, and like so many others that Newcastle went through when we were kids, we used to wear those horrible, thick leather boots with leather studs nailed into the bottom. And when you wanted new boots, you went to get them, and they give you boots at least a size too small. And then they give you a pair of socks. So you put the socks on and the boots on. Then you went to the boot room and you sat in a pail of warm water with your boots on, soaking the boots in the warm water for about a week. Every time you went to the ground, you had to sit with your boots on until the boots ended up the shape of your feet. And yes, they were comfortable. But if you see the shape of my bloody feet now, you'd know it wasn't very clever.
Question for George. Last one from Little FB says, question for George. Northeast Marine was my favourite local pitch. Great playing surface. Did George have a local favourite pitch that he played on?
Yes. I've got to stick with the pitch that Newcastle had up at Huntnersmoor on Barrack Road. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. As good a pitch as you'd find anywhere, well looked after. But it was looked after by the people that looked after St James's Park, so that's why it was very good. In terms of local grounds, though, most of the colliery pitches were great. Linton Colliery up in Northumberland, theirs was like a bowling green, absolutely fantastic. So there were lots of good local pitches, but Huntnersmoor was my favourite.
Okay, moving on then. BT says Alan Shearer admitted it was embarrassing when the players were greeted by fans after the FA Cup final in 1999. Do you think it will be embarrassing this time round, George, if it happened in 2023? Newcastle have said that if they lose the final, there won't be an open top bus. Are you happy with that? No, I'm not. They were so disappointed. There was over 500,000 people greeted them home. I mean, it was like they'd won again. So, no, we want to be come back as winners, absolutely. But this team's done enormous amount for the club and the city already and the fans to lift the gloom of the last 14 years. So I would be delighted to go and welcome them home, win or lose. But obviously, I want to go and welcome the winners back. But that event, was a lot of people welcomed them back after that. And a previous loss as well. The 79, the Liverpool loss. You couldn't get up from the station after the Liverpool loss, and the bus had a job getting up to St James's Park, and that was an absolute debacle, wasn't it? It was awful. The fans still wanted to say thank you, and I would be the same way. I'd still want to say thank you to these lads. They give their all, and if they bring the trophy back, fantastic. Interesting. What's your view then, Steve? Are you one for celebrating failure, or do you not see it like that? Do you agree with George and you would like to welcome the lads back, win or lose?
Well, I don't like to contemplate that occurrence happening, but having experienced it several times in the past. I go back to the early time. I think it was the 74 one, and when I was in it was in Gosforth. I think it was somewhere they used to have the Greyhound track where Astor is now in Gosforth, and I think the parade started up that way somewhere, and there was thousands in the streets up there, and it was celebrated as if it was a victory, and it was a great achievement. And I think we've got to hope that people will treat it the same. It's a stepping stone on a journey, and I think we know, as we've discussed plenty of times on here over the last couple of years since the takeover, that Rome wasn't going to be built in a day, and it's a the old thing was a cup run and a higher position than last year in the league, and that was our target for this year. If we get to the final, we've achieved that first objective as a cup run. Let's hope it's a victory, and now it should spur us on, and I think a mass backing of the crowd in the early part of next week will lift us for that Man City game and the 15 or so games left to go and push for that Champions League spot, which will make it a fantastic season.
Kevin?
Yeah, great, because I've had great memories of the 92. That was my first one with the promotion year under Keegan, and that was my first interlude of actually some success. Then obviously the 98, 99 finals and whatever. Regardless, win or lose, I think we as fans would be appreciative of the team getting there, regardless of what happens. So, and I think the players will feed off of that, like Steve just said, in terms of going into the back end of the year. So win or lose, I think that there should be some form of, wouldn't say full procession, but something to show appreciation from the fans to the players and the club to the fans as well as one, and moving forward as a team and as a club and a fan base.
Okay. Al-Walid, if you were living in Newcastle and Newcastle lost the final, would you, as a Saudi resident coming to Newcastle, would you want to see the players on a bus waving and celebrating if they lost?
Of course not. And maybe the best thing is not to do a reaction. Second best thing, of course, maybe at the ground, but in the bus, no. But at the ground, you can say clap for the players, because now in coming years we expected so many finals, so we don't want to put a pressure on the players. Also, you don't want to seem very much happy about the lose, just in balance. So this is, I think, will encourage the players to do better in next finals. But special bus tour, this should be with the trophy.
Great idea for cup final merchandise. Hasty Wembley wigs, Mitch.
Brilliant.
John.
If somebody isn't doing, you should.
John's the idea man. Where has he been with this idea? It should have been white wigs. Oh,
they're coming out.
God.
They're coming out on Friday. They're coming
Me and
out on
Keith would have
Friday.
bought one, that's for certain. Coming out Friday, yeah. You've got to walk around on all fours, though, to wear it.
Would Keith Patterson be walking the dog as well?
He probably would be. We'll stop it there. This is going too far.
Sorry, mate.
You know, no. You know what it's like on Friday night show. We don't want that.
Steve's upset that the usual stuff is spread from Friday to Wednesday show now. It's going to be in every night.
Give a dog a bone. Give a dog a bad name, actually. Yeah, Mitch, the open top bus. I mean, we've seen them back in the day. I mean, when you get promoted from the championship, Keegan and Lee Clark being mortal on the top of the bus and all that, and the trophy's there. But the FA Cup final ones, it's miserable. It's miserable. Like,
I see both sides of it. As a fan base, we might like the opportunity to say to Eddie Howe, to the team, to the squad, to the owners, thank you for letting us dream again. And that's a nice way to do it. But perhaps the club want to put an entrenched mindset in place that says we are winners. And winners don't celebrate anything other than winning. Winners don't accept second best. And you've just heard Al Walid, that's a Saudi mindset. Why would I want to have a bus tour without a trophy in it? Because they want to be winners. And that's a big mindset change, and we all need to do it. We're still, I know I bang on about this, the Stockholm Syndrome. Nothing ever good happens to us. Nothing ever good's going to come of this. We're always going to fail at the last hurdle. Oh my God, Pope's got himself sent off. This is a disaster. Everything's coming. This is everything. The world's going to end. Chicken Little's running around looking at the sky. But I think the club want to install a winning mindset. And winning mindsets don't settle for second best. That's why Tom Brady has as many Super Bowl rings as he has. That's why the Chiefs at the minute are pulling up trees, because they look at the situation and say, we can find a win out of this. And that's the mindset we need to install. And is celebrating finishing second enough? It's really difficult, because I would want an opportunity personally to say thank you to the team and the squad and the ownership for everything they've done, because we can dream again. Yeah, we are talking about a final, but I'd want to celebrate a win.
Yeah, I think we all want to celebrate a win, Steve. Open top buses, I don't know. I don't want to celebrate, a defeat. Like, I'm with the club, I guess, on this one. But what's your thoughts?
I am as well. As Bob Dylan said, there's no success like failure. Failure is no success at all. We go down there to win. We lose. We come home. That's it for me. I'm not interested in an open top bus parade. We can show our appreciation down there for the players, depending on the performance they put in. What's the point of going, oh, you did well, lads, but you lost? That's the way I look at it. They'll know they've lost, and I don't think they'll enjoy it if they have an open top bus parade, and everybody's exalting them and they've failed, because they'll treat it as a failure, because they're going down to win, because they're professional footballers. And I agree entirely with what Mitch said there. We need to get this mindset of finishing runners up or finishing second out of our head. We are now a club that wants to be winning things, and that's where I stand on it.
Little FB says there will be an open top bus parade because we're going to win. No ifs or buts. Come on, heads up.
Brilliant.
Positivity. Stu, if the worst was to happen, would you be happy with an open top bus tour?
Well, that's just still my thunder because I was going to say it's an irrelevant question because we will win. But if we go around the panel, I'm more inclined to agree with Al Walid, knowing the man's mindset. You don't celebrate failure, and although it's fantastic that we've reached the final, there's no point reaching it unless you win it. And the mentality that we need to get into this club is that we're going to win the trophy, and we will win the trophy, and the rewards are there. You shouldn't reward people for not winning. But as a compromise, I would quite happily celebrate a Champions League finish and do a parade then, because that's a massive overachievement. The other teams can get the finals, but not every team can get the Champions League. So if we're going to do a parade, do it for something that's worth celebrating. And getting beat's not worth celebrating, irrespective of how unfortunate or how unlucky it was. But it's not going to happen because we will win on Sunday. And just to put a lighter note on it, I know Keith's in the chat as well. Mr. Hayes visited my parents this morning, and he's met my mother before, but you hadn't met my dad. So my father says, "So how do you know who he is?" And my mother says he'll be the one standing next to the lamppost waiting to come in. She didn't, Steve. Don't they? She didn't. So I just thought I'd get that one in.
So obviously, like, you know, the Wembley process of us going down and getting there is going to slightly alter shows this weekend, which means we won't have the professionals on Sunday, Stu. So I'm going to ask you for. Yeah, I'm going to ask you for your prediction for that. I will get the rest of the lads' predictions who are going to be on as well. So, how do you see the game going? What team do you think? What changes do you think you'll make? I mean, Bruno in, I think, is an obvious one. But give us your thoughts.
Steve, can I chuck something in with that as well? What's your thoughts on Tierney, Stu? I gather you've had a bit of a whisper this week, yeah?
Aye, well, Tierney. He seems to have split opinions within the fan base I've seen on Twitter, and all of a sudden it's very easy to get tagged with a reputation, such as standing next to the lamppost and things. So it doesn't mean it's true just because people say it. But I did some research, and Tierney, if you can't look at one season, you've got to do it over a period. So let's say the last 4 seasons at Arsenal, he's missed 27 games in total. Right, he's been unavailable for 27 games in 4 seasons. Now, if that averages out with just under 7 games a season, Arsenal averaged between 50 to 55 games a season. So even on the worst case of those, he's been available for 43 games a season, which is more than what Bruno's been for us in the last 12 months. So he's not injury prone at all. It's just a rhetoric that people want to go down. Also, Eddie Howe tried to sign him at Bournemouth. We know that he's patient. If he wants someone, he will get them. He's now got the financial capability and muscle and the geographical location and a team in a position to attract them. I'll give you first team football. You've seen how good we are. You're going to help us get to the next level. It's an easy sell. So I'm not all in on the fact that we'll sign him, but I know that we're keen on him, and I think he'll be a huge addition to the squad. But getting back to the question that you asked me, Steve, is I think there's a big conundrum here revolving around the enigmatic number 10 that we have, Alan Saint-Maximin. I think that's Eddie Howe's biggest dilemma. Does he go with the tried and tested? Because we know he's loyal. Does he go with the tried and tested and say, right, you guys, you're the ones that got me here. He's trusted starting 11. They all know the formation. They all know their rules within that formation. They know the system. Or does he say, right, you played well last week. Actually, second really good game for us this season. I know you're not going to track back, so we have to then make allowances of other people's rules within that formation. My personal opinion is I think he'll go with the team that played in the semi-final, all barring the keeper. And he'll start with the back four that's been pretty consistent for the last 3 or 4 months, as in the names. I believe a lot of it depends on whether Willock starts. If Willock is fit and he has to be 100% fit, then that's the team that I believe he'll go with. If not, then there's a squeak that you could get Alan St-Maximin in, and then we all just have to pray that he's in one of those moods where he's capable of tearing them apart. If not, then Eddie Howe's got a manager's job, a psychologist's job, a father figure's job of epic proportions to try and convince ASM that his best role in this final would be to be an impact sub, and to coax him into believing that, look, I'm going to put you on at this stage and this is what I expect you to do, and get him to believe that's his role without sulking, thinking he's been dropped because he's played the last few games. It's a tricky one, and then, as I've said previously, I'm glad that it's Eddie Howe got paid the big bucks to make these decisions. But I genuinely believe, someone says we need Saturdays, Max here last Saturday. I genuinely believe if Willock's fit, he goes with that. If not, then, because that gives us more balance, that gives us the balance, it gives us the cover. But I could see him start with St-Maximin and Isaac on the bench, because these are unpredictable, and if we're chasing the game, you need unpredictability, and you don't need that at the start when you're trying to set up. This is just my opinion. I think he will go with the 11, all on the fact that Willock's fit, and I think, although I have put, as you've seen in the chat, I have put a bet on us winning 3-1. I think that we'll win 1-0 on Sunday. I believe it'll be 1-0 on Sunday. It's one of those that we've asked, the question has been asked so many times in the last 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, not just by ourselves, not just by the people like the fans on Twitter, not just by, it's by the press, by the whole country, Sky Sports, everyone asked this question. Would we rather win a cup final, win the cup final, or get in the top 4? Well, all roads lead to NW10 on Sunday for that answer, don't they? And tell me, those in the stadium, those in London who have travelled down, not even the hope of getting tickets, just travelled down to experience and say they were in London at that time. You tell me that winning the cup final is not the most important. So let's get this cup final won on Sunday. And I honestly, genuinely believe that we will win it. And I think that was about it. I just think I honestly can see us winning. We'll stifle them. They're in form. They are in form. And if we can cut a supply line, which will have the players to do that, then we'll have the pace and the know-how to hit them on the break. And I'd love, the question that's also been asked, who do you like to see score? I'd like to see our number 9, our famous number 9 shirt on the Wembley pitch scoring the winner. I don't think you can get more apt than that for Newcastle United.
How big would his smile be? Do you hear me?
No, he deserves it. He deserves it because it's not his fault with the injuries and stuff like that. But he's always give 100%, which I know is the minimum criteria, but some players don't. He's always grafted us, and he's went through the pain barrier several times. And he's probably been the most clinical finisher, natural finisher we've had in a long time. And for us, let the defence do their job and keep their clean sheet, and let the centre forwards score the winning goal. And then we're all happy. So 1-0 Newcastle on Sunday.
I'm gonna leave Steve and Mitch until Friday's show for their predictions for the final. I do want to just pick up on Keith's point here. He says, I'm with my mate Hasty on trophy celebrations. I think he meant pal. I think we'll have plenty of bus parades when we win a lot.
Champion, that one.
Oh, dear me. Oh.
We'll make win a lot.
That's given me food for thought. God.
He does like to take the lead, does Keith. Al-Walid, your prediction for the final, please.
Before our prediction, I would like to score first. This is very important. Expectation, I can say I feel like it's going to be 1-0 for Newcastle, and Char will score the goal.
Okay, good stuff. Vince Smith says the team will show their true pedigree, Steve. Kevin, prediction for the weekend, then go on, mate. One last time.
He's your chum, him, isn't he?
Yes.
Oh, dear me.
No, I went with a 3-1 Monday, and I've considered it and things like that. But I think we'll win 2-0. Again, it's all depending on, like I said, how. Like I said, Monday, you can watch the show back about that. How high we press, and how do you? And I say this coaching wise, like I said, Monday, do you press with your head or your heart? Do you go together as a group? Do you sit in? Because I believe if we sit in against Man United, they'll not pick us apart, but I think they'll control the tempo of the game. So I think we need to be a reverse, so force them to play on the counter attack a little bit, which they're happy to do with the way Ten Hag plays. That's the Dutch way, how to play in a 4-3-3. That's the way they're going to play. But I think, again, if we start on the front foot, which we know we probably will, and I agree with Al Willie 100 fully. If we get the first goal, but then control the game, but then not take our foot off the gas pedal like we have done previously in other games, which has been probably our detriment.
Yeah.
Then go and get the second one. Then go and get the third one, and then it could be good night by half time. But again, it all depends how we set up. And I agree with you in terms of, does he go with Willock on the inside of a 3 with the swapping over of Joe Linton and Joe Willock? How does that, unless the fitness level is there? It's going to be very interesting team selection of what he actually decides to go with. And agree with you again. Big number 9 to score the winner, or whatever. Because I was there when. There was an Alan Shearer score when Rob Lee put it in against Chelsea, and I was a ball and mess. I was only 15 at the time or whatever it was. But yeah, so just to see that euphoria, to go and clinch the cup, whatever the result is, I think that'll be a monumentous occasion for him as a player, put on the big stage at the National Stadium, where he really should be. All essence is playing for England. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting tactically. I think it's going to be tighter than we think, but yeah, I'll go with a 2-1 win against the Monks and beat Man City again 2-0 at their place, just for shits and giggles.
Steve Wilkinson.
Yeah, well, as far as the team goes, if Willock's fit, I would put him back in. I would go back to the tried and tested team that was the foundation of the long run, and having the midfield of Willock and Joe Linton and Longstaff and Bruno playing in the same way that they did. ASM, as well as he playing on Saturday, you might remember the game. Man City was the game where everybody said, "Oh, he's fantastic." The game after that was the Wolves game away, and I think he would have been substituted. But as it happened, he wasn't. He didn't have a very good game, despite the fact that he scored a fantastic goal to get us a draw. So I don't think he's consistent enough to risk him from the start, and I think Eddie Howe will understand that as well, and that's why I think he'll go for what he's used to. So I would like to see that. I would also like to see, as Kev just said, is play on the front foot. We've our best games when we've taken an early lead. Games like Leicester, we scored 3 in the first half, 2-0 up at Fulham. We scored early on against West Ham, and we missed the chance to capitalise on that the other week. We scored effectively 2 in the first few minutes because obviously the one was disallowed. But I would like to see us do that. Man United seem to take a while to settle. Leeds were 2-0 up. Leicester should have been ahead in the first half of the weekend. And I think if we can capitalise before the time they get settled and go into half time with a 2-0 lead, which is certainly possible, we can hang on to that. And the defence then comes into its own. We'll be full of confidence. We held them down there at their ground without conceding. So I'm going for 2-0. And, I would like that cushion so I'm not too stressed, as I'm sure I would be if we was hanging on to a 1-0, getting towards the end, or it was a draw still at that stage.
Yeah. George, I'll get your prediction on Friday night show as well when we talk about it. I guess from my perspective, I just want to see a Newcastle manager do what previous Newcastle managers didn't do on my previous visits, which was pick the right bloody team. And it comes back to that no room for sentiment. I don't want to see a player in that team who will all go, well, what on earth is he playing for? And I think we had that on the last 3 visits, the 2 finals and the semi-final. Just remember.
And the lack of Barraclough on the 74.
There you go. Before my time, but there again, it seems to be a running theme, Steve.
So on Monday night, I was asked about comparing it with the 3 finals of the 50s. And I said then, and I'll say it again now, this one's got the parallel that we're already not being given any chance by anybody that wants to listen to the telly or the newspapers. And that was exactly the same as the 50s. The Blackpool game, we were going to get beat by Stanley Matthews, and we didn't. The Arsenal game, they were going to win the double, and they didn't. And the Manchester City game, well, we were in turmoil because Stan Seymour sacked the manager because he picked the wrong team. He wasn't going to play Jackie Milburn. And Doug Livingston got sacked so that Jackie Milburn could be put in the team by the directors, and Norman Smith was made manager for the final. And we beat Manchester City with a 45-second goal from Jackie Milburn. So, yeah, we always seem to attract some sort of extramural activity around the final. So this team selection on Sunday is going to be crucial.
I tell you what, with all the chat we've had tonight, it's good to be underdogs, isn't it?
Yes.
Under Hasties.
Yes.
Gary McBurney says a dogged performance with a bit of bite. That's all we need, Steve. Would you agree?
This has got me howling.
Oh, God.
He's going to give you the runaround in London, though.
He's all been in the doghouse.
We'll leave it there with Steve having the final word. I'm back 10 o'clock tomorrow morning with Gibbo and Super Mac looking ahead to the final. And, of course, the Three Amigos, 5 o'clock sharp till 7 o'clock on Friday night. Saturday, I will be doing a show with Ben Jacobs, and then I'll pre-record something for you guys at home on the Sunday. But for now, good night from me. Good night from George, Steve, Kevin, Al Walid, Mitch, Steve Hasty, and Stu. Take care, folks.
Good night, lads.
Everybody.
See you.